Hello and welcome on into my garage. We are going to unload a glaze kiln, which I'm super excited about. Actually, got a new kiln. You can see my large kiln there. But I got a Scott 822, which is really exciting to be able to have a smaller kiln, to be able to unload smaller kiln loads, which means that I can get through the cycle quicker. So let's go ahead and check it out. All right, some exciting stuff in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unload the kiln and then I'm going to take you down to my basement so you can see everything up close and get a better look at all the different combinations. Hello and welcome into my basement. I was able to get everything down here from my kiln unload. I think it's a lot easier to be able to show you all the different pieces here with some better lighting. If you're new to my channel, my name is Danielle Turner-Lawrence. I'm with Pine Lake Pottery, and I have a small kiln unloading for you today. I did a total of 2 trays in this kiln. This first one here I really like a lot. It's got this beautiful Elan lemon lemon transfer on it. And then over top is 8167 clear. And that's I think it's a Val Cushing recipe. Really easy to get. I'll go ahead and put it in my comment section so that you can get that clear glaze. But it is cheap and easy to use. Now the problem with this tray, it's beautiful, right? Is this. Unfortunately, it came out of the bisque with this middle piece totally broken. So I glued a little bit of it back on just to provide some support and figured it'll be great in my kitchen. So that's where this is going, to hold some lemons for the summer. All right, moving on from that, I'll show you the other tray that I made, which I absolutely adore. This is a really nice big sort of deep dish. The glaze that's on here is Amaco's Celadon Fog, which is awesome with texture. And you can see on the back, it's got a double foot ring. This is 3 coats of Amaco's Fog. And then if you're interested, this texture comes from a company called the Pottery Toolkit. And they make these really cool texture mats and these covers that go over the GR pottery forms that allow you to not have a line when you stack 2 of those forms together to make a large tray. So really a fan of not only this glaze, but definitely this texture, really beautiful. All right, let's get into some of the combos here. And let me put a plug in for keeping some notes for yourself. I'd love to say that I remember all of the glaze combinations that I do, but the reality is I just don't. Even when I tell myself there's like no way I could possibly forget, I forget. So I write everything down. All right, so these first 2 are some of my favorite combinations with this technique called frozen pond. I didn't invent the technique. It's from a potter named Kathy McGuire. And you can just see here how beautiful this looks. So the way that you get this texture is you put 3 coats of obsidian, Amaco's Celadon obsidian. Then you take and you make circles with running hot chowder, which is a spectrum glaze. And then over the top of that, I do 2 coats of the running hot chowder in circles. And I do a bit of a pattern to make it look, somewhat symmetric. And then on top of that, I do 2 coats of Amaco's Sapphire Float. So just love how that looks. The middle part here just has a couple coats of obsidian, so you can sort of see the black versus the blue. But those are sharp. I love that. All right. Moving on. I don't love this one. Kind of good that I got it out of I might try putting a little bit of something that's going to make it flux a little bit better. So this is 3 coats of obsidian, again, Amaco's obsidian, and then 2 coats of Spectrum Shallot. I don't love it. Obviously, it just didn't get a lot of movement. All right, let's move on. Okay, this is a favorite combination of mine. I've done this before. Really like this combination. So this is 3 coats of obsidian. You're seeing a pattern or pattern here in some of the glazing I'm doing. And then I put 3 coats of smoky Merlot to about here. It doesn't really move too much. And then I put just 2 coats right at the rim of Amaco's Ancient Jasper. And just look at that. That is just gorgeous. You know how that looks. All right, here's another one where I wasn't totally happy with it. This is 3 coats of obsidian and 3 coats of blue rutile. The obsidian really just kind of ate the rutile. You can barely see some blue here, so that'll need to go back in the kiln for another try. And then this is another one of my fan favorites. This is 3 coats of obsidian, and then 3 coats of Albany Slip Brown, which is also an Amaco glaze. But I apply it in an uneven way. So I'll put the first coat onto here and the second coat here. I'll make it a little bit blotchy. So it's really quite variegated on there, but it gives a sense of movement and it's really cool actually. All right. Moving on from that, those were all the ones with obsidian as the base. All right. We're going to move to some that have honey flux now as the base. So this is 3 coats of honey flux, 2 coats of Spectrum's Bougainvillea, and then 2 more coats of honey flux at the rim. I really like this. I think this is really, really beautiful. It was actually a little bowl I made that had a flower at the bottom. I don't know if you can see that there. But really like how that looked, and it kind of obviously runs a little bit on the inside too, even though I didn't really put too much there. Beautiful. All right. Some of you may have seen a kiln opening that I had where I had made 6 beautiful matching small cereal bowls, and they all ran on the shelf. It was a big hot mess. My shelf was a mess. The bowls all had to go in the trash. This is that combination, but I got it right this time. So this is 3 coats of honey flux, still 3 coats of iron luster, but this time I was smarter. I went really much higher up, and that 3rd coat I just did at the rim so that I would not have nearly as much running, but these are awesome. If you can kind of see kind of how dark and just such a cool texture, and then it pulls that iron luster into the inside. So just like all of my honey flux combinations, I put 2 more coats of honey flux at the rim. Again, I was very careful with how much honey flux I use, and really that 3rd coat of iron luster I was also really careful with. But I am in love with this combination. I could see making a whole line with this. I just think they're beautiful, beautiful. All right. I have a little one and a big one, or I should say a small one and a tiny one. So this is, again, honey flux 3 times, 3 coats, I should say, inside and out. And then I have 2 coats of blue midnight around the top, 2 coats of blue rutile around the middle, and then again, a little bit more honey flux times 2 at the rim. And again, that's how it kind of gets pulled in there. These are so pretty. I love it. I love sort of the subtle variation there that you get as it sort of pulls some of that glaze down and the different colors. It's beautiful. I love that one too. So kind of a second favorite. All right. So this is a new combination for me. I have a couple pinholes here, and I'm not exactly sure if it is from the bisqueware or it's the glaze. Almost always when there's pinholes, it has to do with the fact that your bisque might not have had a long enough time in the kiln to kind of off gas. So, and I fired these little bowls on a fast speed. I had my Scud 822. I had just done kind of its initial fire because it was a brand new. I put the bowls in and I did a fast fire on my bisque. So these bowls, all these bowls have been sort of fast fired, and I think it may have, affected the glaze here. So there's a couple little pinholes in this bottom glaze here, but this is Laguna's Ancient Jade. So I really like that. It's very pretty. Three coats all over. And then I did Honey Flux ×2, about halfway down. So really beautiful. Love the inside. Love kind of that reddish color that it made. You know, looks almost like a seashore. So I really like this. I'm going to try it again and just see if maybe it was my bisque that caused it to bubble like that, but beautiful. All right. And then these are my absolute favorite from the kiln. I know I said the iron luster ones were my favorite, but I knew that that combination was going to work well. And this one I didn't know. And I am just in love with this. So, and these were made just maybe a slightly different than I have in the past. So these are 3 coats of Honey Flux, Amaco's Honey Flux all over, inside and out. And then I did my middle band first, which I think is really important. This is Midnight Blue all the way around, 2 coats. And then I did Ancient Jasper, which I know runs. I know it runs because I do this combination all the time with Smoky Merlot, and you can see how much it runs there, right? And it's so, you know, so intricate there. So I put Ancient Jasper on the top, 2 coats, and then again, Honey Flux at the rim, and just really love that. I also could make a whole dinnerware set with just this. Totally in love with that. I have a list of sort of favorite combos, and the first thing I did when I got these out of the kiln is I added this combination to that list. So totally love these. All right, I have two more small bowls to show you. This one comes with a little bonus inside. So this little bowl, see, it has a cute little flower in it. This is sangria. And typically I only use 1 coat of sangria, and it's not enough. It looks splotchy on the outside, but do love how it looks on the inside. Just needs more. So I'll send that back through the kiln. I also had glazed just these little things that I had popped out of some molds with sangria. I have a plan for these little tiny flowers, and I'll share that with you in a class, but these are coming to you soon. But they turned out nice, and 1 coat of sangria is all you need, which is kind of crazy when you think about other commercial glazes needing 3 coats. Typically, especially on texture with sangria, you only need 1 coat. You know, clearly the exception is when you're on a smooth surface like this on the outside of pots, you clearly need more. All right. And then lastly, my last thing in the kiln is this little bowl here, and I have also a couple little flowers that I have plans for. So this is Amaco's, I just want to make sure I've got that right. This is Amaco's, Weeping Plum. You can see 3 coats inside and out, maybe a little splotchy on the outside. That's what you get when you do celadons on surface, and any texture is going to make them break. So you can see all my throwing lines here, but looks cute. Cute little flower at the bottom. I basically took one of these and affixed it to the bottom, but you can see that. So anyway, small kiln opening. Wanted to just be able to do some new combinations and share with you. Hope you enjoyed this kiln opening, and check out my other videos if you're interested in tips, tricks, or tools related to pottery. See you next time.